What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 81, Axioms on Trial. We are going to do something a little off of philosophy. Well, I think there's some comments actually that I want to get into on the first video that might get back into distinctions of facts and values, which I don't think is really mentioned in this conversation as much. But we will get into the video clip soon. Cease has a new microphone, so if everybody can, once he speaks. Oh, go ahead.
Let me know how well you guys can hear me. I finally have my new computer, but I didn't realize that I didn't have an outlet for the microphone that I usually use. So I don't know if the built-in microphone sounds good enough. If not, I'm planning on getting an adapter to plug in the old mic in. But in the meantime, I didn't really have an option. So I don't know how well you guys can hear me from here.
You sound fine on my end, but yeah, we're gonna just for the audience sake, just if he's audible, then that's all that really matters. Also, seems that Cecil might have to step away for a minute. There might be something he'll have to go take care of, but if that happens, or if it's already happening, I'll just continue the video clip and we'll just move on. But I want to, if Cease is there, to have maybe you go through some potential, like a little kind of synopsis on what we're going to be discussing. But first, I want to address why we are on at 2 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock.
While you do that, let me just take care of this one thing real quick. I'll be back in like a minute.
100%. That gives me time to kind of address this. So I'm not getting a lot of sleep. I'm having a hard time getting to sleep. Hard time having my brain shut off. The times that I need to go to sleep. I work some pretty ridiculous hours, and I'm working 2 jobs. And then volunteering with the ACA in my spare time, and then doing this. And so, an issue has been why we haven't done a show, and why I've been absent on a lot of the episodes is just due to that taking a big toll on me. A lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, things of that nature. Nothing like to worry about. So it was good for me to take a little bit of a break in that sense, but the scheduling issues got to a point where it wasn't really conducive for me to do it at the times that we do. So we're going to be doing an actual schedule, or at least try to get to a schedule. And so Mondays at 2 p.m., anywhere from 1 to 2, we'll start a show. And we'll do basically the same type of thing we always do. And then we'll dedicate, I can't remember the other day we have. I'll have to go back and look at our DMs, but there'll be another day, I think Thursday. Or maybe not Thursday, maybe Friday or Thursday. I got to look. But another day that will be at nighttime that we've already agreed upon. And so there'll be actually more shows than normal in the sense of that we'll have at least 2 a week, it seems. And then opt for a 3rd or 4th show in the week whenever me and him do what we always did, which was, hey, do you want to do a show? Yeah, what do you want to do it on? I don't know. What do you want to do it on? I have no idea. So we'll just continue to do that in between the actual schedule. So we might end up having 3 or 4 days. It might actually be more of an issue in terms of my sleeping on those days, but it will be worth it if we can do it. So, and none of that's something I can't handle with just the proper scheduling. So once we take care of that, and once I'm a big boy and can abide by my schedule, then we should have a pretty steady flow. And then that long-winded to say anybody who has been a Patreon supporter of ours, we want to make sure we give you the perks that we promised. And so we will be able to succeed at that promise here with the schedule, I believe, and that will give us time to dedicate any other time towards that. So anyway, all that stuff out of the way. I know Cease has to deal with some stuff. I might just go ahead and get into the first clip. If you're not aware and you can't read the topic or you're not looking at your phone, we are going to be doing a bunch of clips on Muslims talking about the LGBT community, as well as their assessments on meta ethics in regard to this topic. So I'll go ahead and pull up the clip and see if Cease needs me to restart it. We can, if we're not too far, I can go back. And honestly, I think Cease might he might not disagree, but I take a different angle at this. I think in terms of if you're going to make claims about values or moral claims, and derive them from descriptive facts, I want to see how that inference rule works, because I'm convinced that you're making a giant leap in logic to some normative evaluation that you can't actually constitute from the descriptive facts. But we will go ahead and do that now.
It's become encouraged now to feminize men.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and say I have no idea who Faraz Zahabi is, so I have no idea. If anyone else does, if he's popular or something, I have no idea. But just wanted to throw that out. I don't even know who this is, really.
And if they want to feminize their men, they can do it, but they're not going to feminize our men. We should.
Okay, so we're already in really, really fucking rocky territory. Feminize your men. Okay, so like this is kind of the issue I had. So as soon as I just glanced at the clip before we started, and Cease, maybe you might not agree because you don't take the is odd as serious as I do, but my biggest issue off the bat, just to throw away, to try to come at it from the angle of how they're adjudicating this normative value, they have in line a goal at which a man should be X, is the way that I'm interpreting their criticism. A man should be defined as this thing, right? That's kind of their thing. But my issue is just from the fact alone, like if I have a penis, it doesn't actually follow that I ought to not paint my nails or not wear a dress. Like none of that follows, or not act a certain way. Right? This is just a mere point about deductive logic. It's really trivial when you really think about it. And I know CCU might disagree on the meta-ethical point of the Azad, but this is a sticking point for me that if you're gonna try to go from facts to values, I need to know what that inference rule is, right? I mean, if you're gonna convince me that this is wrong, right, and that I should hold the same value as you, you're gonna have to at least substantiate the normative goal, right? Now, from my understanding, the normative evaluation just is tethered to their beliefs, right? They believe in the Quran, they believe in Allah, they believe in the word of Allah, and that's all mind dependent, dependently tethered. They haven't actually substantiated the claim that Allah exists. They haven't substantiated the claim that the Quran is the word of a God. They haven't actually substantiated that there's not interpretation problems that might arise on how we know what Allah says in the text actually aligns with the intention. So there's a whole host of problems that we can kind of shelve. But if you want to convince me, right, you can't just merely express values by giving some descriptive set, like I have a penis, therefore I shouldn't, paint my nails or something. So we're already in really, really rocky territory where it's like you already look, from my opinion, like a white belt. But go ahead, Cease, if you want to add to that or a different point.
Well, I both agree and disagree. Obviously, like as a more realist, I don't think it's an issue of deriving an ought from an is. I think it's an issue that they have the wrong goal in mind. That, from my perspective, what we ought to do, because what I think is the highest value, and what I think they would think was the highest value, were they to understand the spectrum of potential experience, is well-being and living free of these kind of social pressures. So I agree with you. There's nothing about having a penis that should mean now you have to act a certain way. Like people exist and experience on a spectrum, and people should be free to express their individuality and their orientation and their gender identity however they please. And so the fact that their religion tells them otherwise is irrelevant, because they have no way to show that their beliefs actually corresponds to anything real and concrete. Like, their value is based in a delusion. My value is based in something that I can actually show exists in the real world. So because their value is based
Well,
on something
and
they
can I
can't.
say as an anti-realist that I already am like put like you and you and if they're watching this, they can go back and watch our conversations where you actually try to substantiate that, right? You try to bridge that, or at least show where the mistake is in the uh, the reasoning that I think that the realist should be applying, right?
Mhm.
And that is leagues above just merely tethering this value that's clearly dependent upon, like you said, these beliefs, um, which I guess we're both in agreement that they're delusional,
Yeah.
given that you're not actually look, if the world worked the way it did according to these values, that adjudicating them or deriving them from the state of affairs wouldn't be difficult. But clearly it's difficult from my point, from just a deductive point. It just seems like I don't know where you're uh, deriving what I ought do as
And
some categorical
and also
notion.
a side comment to make is that, this is why when theists, whether Christian or Muslim, want to play the victim and say, well, you're bigoted against my freedom of religion, you know, I don't assume anything specific when somebody tells me they're a Muslim or a Christian, other than you're probably going to be irrational in that one instance, and I'm not going to agree with the way you see the world. I'm not going to assume necessarily the content of their beliefs, because people can interpret their religion very differently.
Sure.
So I just ask, like, what is it that you actually believe? And when their beliefs are of this kind, where man has to be this one thing, or woman has to be this one thing, or homosexuals are wrong because of this, you people are bigots. Like, you're the one that are bigoted, and you want to use words like Islamophobia to shut down conversation and to distract from the fact that your beliefs are immoral and barbaric, and that your religion is garbage. Um, and so, I'm not. How do I say this? I'm open to whatever you want to tell me Islam is. If this is what you tell me your religion is, then there's nothing bigoted about my reaction to what you're telling me is your religion. I'm simply responding to the picture you've painted, and describing the picture for what it is. So, yeah, you're still muted. You're muted.
We're 15 seconds in and we're already in a really weird territory. So I'll let him go on since I cut him off so quickly.
Stay within reason. Doesn't mean we have to become, barbarians. Obviously not. We have to be sophisticated yet but manly. My children, I'll give you guys a.
So we can break that down to like J Mike ought to be manly, Cease ought to be manly. All these people on the panel ought to be manly. That's the value that's being ascribed here.
But it's a value you can define, because men and women,
Well,
you know,
it's a normative. Like his definition of being manly is not like that. There's nothing categorical about just him starting from the fact alone that he thinks the definition is categorical,
yeah,
right?
he's
Like
just saying this is what.
he's starting from a hypothetical imperative. He's just saying, like, he's not realizing it, but it's like, if you're in accord with these beliefs, then you ought to think this is manly or something. Like,
Well,
I get how you could stem that from your hypothetical of accepting these prior beliefs, but the issue is like actually having the categorical value being
but
delivered,
it's
without
worse than
fallacious
that.
reasoning.
It's worse than that, because he's starting out with a category that doesn't actually correspond to reality, because he's saying this is what a man is. But then when you observe in the world, you see people with male genitalia who instead have exists on a much wider spectrum of experience and behavior.
Yeah.
So that is his category makes no sense. It's not what is observed when we look at the world. You can't just make up a category and say now everything must fit this category when the category doesn't actually exist in the world itself. My category, when I talk about well-being, is something that I can point to and say, no, this exists, and here's how. It's something I can point to that is concrete, that is observable. Now we can decide whether or not, well, based on the fact, does it follow that we should do X, Y, or Z? That's a different conversation. But he doesn't even have a concrete category. He just has his own assumptions or bias as to what he thinks should be, a man or a woman.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. I think that's brilliantly put. I mean, should not even have some like co-referring category to even establish is again rocky territory.
Quick anecdote: one of my sons on Valentine's Day, they showed him a movie, a romantic movie, and my son's 10 years old, about one guy falling in love with another. So he comes home. My kids, they're
Look at that fucking. He's just shaking his head.
especially when we're driving to the gym. I let them talk to me about anything. There's no topic that they can't bring up. So my son's like, watch this movie, and two guys were kissing
Amber.
each other. So me and my friend were laughing, and everybody got angry with us because we were laughing, and they were telling me it's normal, it's normal, it's normal. They were telling the kids in the class were like, why are you laughing? It's not right. And the teacher was telling my son, oh, it's okay if you're gay. If you're gay, like you could say, me and my son.
So again, I maybe he'll elucidate on it, but like, where's the wrongness come in play? Like, in virtue of what is it wrong? Is what I'm looking for.
So this is interesting because this shows that their own extremism is starting to crumble from the inside out. You can't stop progress. Like the fact that uh, now I don't know. Is he where does he live? Like, is he?
I don't know who he is at all, but someone said he's like an MMA fighter.
I
Or
think
something.
he's St. Pierre's coach. I remember that.
I had no idea. I thought it was just some apologist.
So now I don't
idea.
know. I don't know. Like I wouldn't think that it would be so open in the Middle East, but yeah, I don't know. It's just these people are so gross to me.
All right, knowing Corbin probably knows who he is because he's all in that. He's in that world of MMA.
My two sons, we're like, that's pretty weird, man. That's pretty weird. These kids haven't even gone through.
I wonder why that you have that elicited response. One can presume like he's gonna go to some type of one can only assume, right? And I won't go all in with this bet, but I'm willing to like maybe save a couple chips so I can bet later. I'm gonna put in everything in except for like an Annie or like a blind, right? Just keep that there. I bet you what he's gonna say is to have to do something with like childbirth or conception or being able to have the ability to have kids or something like that. I just where I'm just wild guess. Do you have? We'll play a game. What do you think? How do you or do you think he will even give a reason?
No, I think no, they'll definitely go there. But what I would say is that the reasons for this kind of attitude towards LGBTQ issues are one, fear of what you don't understand. Difference makes stupid people uncomfortable and uneasy. Two, belief in their religion. Like if this is what they think their religion teaches them, then they've automatically assumed that their religion is right, and so therefore these other things are immoral. And three, what happens often, and I don't know, I'm not saying this necessarily applies in every case, I don't think it does, but a lot of these people have internalized self-hate because they're secretly, how do I say this? They have these desires, and because of social pressures and their own kind of internalized bigotry, they try to shut those things off. It's no wonder that a lot of these pastors, especially in Christianity, who go around preaching the sinfulness of homosexuality, are then caught with male prostitutes in hotel rooms. There was something very psychological there that's going on. They're trying to talk. It's almost like they're trying to convince themselves of what they're saying.
Yeah.
They're trying to reject this thing that secretly they desire.
Which is never an issue to desire in the first
Right.
place. All right. Let's move this.
With puberty yet. I sent
He's kind of got this like a Sinbad thing going on with the smile, but I don't know.
my kid to school to learn math, science, history, philosophy, ethics, the basics. Why are you showing them on Valentine's Day a story about a man falling in love with a man? Now, listen, there are gay people in the world. I tell my kids, look, there are gay people. You're going to see it. But I said, we're not gay. I tell them straight up. And I'm not ashamed. I tell if you're a teacher.
Who the fuck are you to say what they are and what they aren't?
Well, yeah. No one in my blood is gay. It's like that sounds like my redneck neighbor. It's like you ain't gay, huh? You gay? No one in my family is gay. Like what argument is that? You sound like an ignorant asshole. Just like nobody. You're not gay. Like you're gonna tell somebody what the fuck they are. And this is the guy. This guy right here is this scares me. Like a guy like this, especially someone who's in like, I don't know them, but if you're already in that world of like, MMA and fighting as some type of, I worry if one of his sons came to him and said, Father, I'm gay. Like I worry about that because this is clearly such an issue. I worry that the response from these types of people aren't going to be met with like, let's talk about it. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not even safe to say that it's going to be like safe with just shunning the person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which would be a better alternative than what presumably, and like I said, I don't know this person, but when you make declarative statements like we're not gay for that person, like you've shut the conversation off. It seems that you're going to elicit a response when someone you love does tell you that. That's not going to be reasonable.
Sure.
And I fear what that response could be. But.
Which again, when theists say, "Well, why can't you respect our beliefs and leave us alone?" Like, no, I don't respect anything about what you represent. If this is what you're representing, so you should be criticized, you should be ridiculed, and you should be humiliated for having these beliefs that are barbaric. Yeah.
By the way, for people that don't know, I live in the South, so people like that do exist down here. So it's not like just hyperbolic. They're all around. Okay, so
Tell your teacher that I told him you're heterosexual, and if he has a problem with that, to call me. No, seriously, I'm 100% serious. I told myself, if he does not happy with the fact that you're, tell your teacher, look him in the eye, and tell him, look, I'm 100% heterosexual. I said, use the term super straight. I taught him what the term super straight is. And don't be shy about it all. Don't be apologetic about it at all.
But no, pause.
Look,
nobody's saying to be apologetic if you're straight.
Yeah, I never understand that move. I've never understood that move. Like where it's like this like weird tu quoque where it's like, well, look, you're not the one being oppressed. Like nobody's like oppressing straight people.
Nobody's telling your kids they have to be gay. Like this guy's a moron.
It's the weirdest fucking response ever.
Tell him we're straight. And I tell my son, you know why you're straight? Think about what if your father was gay? Where would you be?
All right.
It looks like even Affidavit over here is like, what the fuck are you saying, man? Like,
so he just went to where you predicted. He said,
"Oh, has he done that?" No, sorry, I was kind of focused on because I was reading his name. I thought it said Affidavit.
He just said the dumbest thing, and this is the epitome of complete delusion. He said, "What if your father was gay? Where would you be?" So if that was the case, nobody would be. If that was what made somebody straight, then nobody would be gay. Like, what the fuck is he talking about? Ugh. and they wonder why they get.
Think about, what if your father was gay? Where would you be?
Wow. Yeah. So I'm gonna claim my chips, pull
Yeah.
them back in, and there we
You
go.
wouldn't exist. Tell your teacher that there's something special when a man and a woman fall in love together. You know what that special
Allahu
thing is?
Akbar.
So we're still appealing to more value, right? We're using normative language like special. We're using normative goals like you have to have like you ought to have some child. Um, look, I, I'm I'm straight, but like if I have a relation, I don't want kids,
Right.
right? Am I like out of accord with that? Like I don't like why is that? So there's this weird thing that like that's the value you ascribe, knowing that like straight people be happily married and not have that value, as if that would even apply, right? In the case where it's not the people you despise, right? But I don't know that that would be a problem to him if I was like, look, I don't want a kid,
But
right?
this is the
Like,
thing, these arguments are so laughable that it's amazing to me that adults with
yeah, and
fully grown
Dean here, yeah,
brains
right.
can say this kind of thing and say it without embarrassment. Someone like him who's a name in the MMA community, people know who he is, that he can just come on and say this without embarrassment. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's so many like points on that, right? It's like, I mean, the fact that you would be like, look, you can't, son, you can't put your penis in a vagina and have a kid. Not, it's like that doesn't bar you from having kids. You can still have a kid. What the fuck is like? It's such a weird statement to make.
By
They
the way,
create
just
life.
because there's more people in the audience now, can you hear me as well as usual? Because I'm not using the.
You sound fine.
Okay.
From me, you do. If everybody hears what I'm hearing, you're good. I think you sound better than normal because sometimes you have like this like cave-like effect. Sometimes I don't know. It's weird. It's like you're in a
Let
big
me know
echo
in the
room.
audience because I'm not using the normal mic.
All right.
They create life. So there's something unique about when a man and woman get together, they can create life. They propagate life. We think life is beautiful. I think the progeny is the most.
Normative again, right? To ask an antinatalist if they think that that's beautiful because they're not going to give you that
Yeah, but
answer. So
it's also
we're just describing really weird categorical values that I don't know. Like we haven't got to the part where like he's actually deductively shown that. But here,
and also gay
Most
people can
important.
create life.
yeah,
It's unlike
You have seen, the Western world has become.
he has this like very primitive notion of like how families work. You know, like
of course, because their ideology is primitive and detached from actual reality. By the way, that guy in the top right is like frozen in time. He just like stuck with that smirk on his face. There's almost like no change to his expression.
yeah, I noticed that too. One can only can imagine the type of retrospect, and it's okay. I can ignore these feelings as
Yeah,
long as
right.
I'm not doing them.
Yeah.
the most important thing in the world. So whatever makes me happy.
Like to me, it just seems like the most artificial smile of like I know what I'm saying or I know what this guy's saying. It's fucking stupid, right? But
Yeah.
it goes with every prior that I had. So yay for being told in an echo chamber what I already believe.
If I'm gay, oh well, that makes me happy. That's what I'm gonna do. The Muslim world is saying no. The collective is the most important.
Wait, hold on. Did you know that the Muslim world was saying no to that? That's hold on, like that's like fucking riveting news. I had no idea that they were saying that they. Wow, I was wondering why we were here. I was wondering why we were doing the show. I had no idea, that they disagreed.
The Muslim body is the most important. What's the healthiest for us is to propagate our progeny and teach them Islam.
Yeah, you have to have the relationship where you the man have dominion over the wife and can beat her lightly with a comb depending on the apologetic that you hear, right? So I'm not really like seeing anything other than the claim, right? I've heard a bunch of claims, but I haven't actually heard like the argument.
And that is more important than me, the individual. And therefore, I'm going to raise, because,
So you're saying it's mind dependent? Hold on.
and that is more important than me, the individual.
Oh, it's more important than me. Okay.
And therefore, I'm going to raise, because don't forget, you can culturalize. We're going to talk about, yes, some people might be born gay. Yes, that's true. But
isn't that still like, maybe I'm being too pedantic, but it's like the fact that you come to this conclusion that the whole is greater than yourself seems to still just be some mind dependent desire that you haven't actually adjudicated is like something that, me, for example, should categorically follow as well. Right. I don't know that part. And maybe that you don't really
And that's what comes along
focus
with.
on that part as much as I do. But
No, because obviously, as a
it
Muslim, they think that everybody should be Muslim. So they think that this is the ideology to follow and that everybody should follow it. So
human, therefore you ought to be Muslim.
a lot of it could be culturalized. And anybody want to debate me on this, please do. I can't wait.
Oh, sorry. I just want to make sure.
Wait till we have this debate. The Spartans, it was mandatory
Email axiomsontrial@gmail.com. I would love to
be gay. The Spartans, people, I'm a Spartan. You sure you want to be a Spartan? Are you sure you want to be a Spartan? It was mandatory to be homosexual as a Spartan. You can raise a child to be homosexual, like you could raise a child to be heterosexual. Now, I'm not saying that it never happens that you try to raise a child heterosexual and he turns out to be homosexual. I'm not saying that. I'm saying by and large, and listen to what I'm saying. Please don't misquote me here. You can influence a child at a young age to what sexual orientation he will have. I tell my sons, I'm doing you guys the biggest favor I think I could do.
And look, I don't even know if you were to just grant the point, like what you could influence. So your God failed at securing what we ought to be. I'm not understanding. How do you actually adjudicate what would be the quote unquote right one if they're just both, from your perspective, easily malleable? I don't get that.
I mean, this is the same type of person if you were, what is he describing as influence? Like, people are on a spectrum. Like, I don't know what his thinking could be. These influences that can make somebody
it
who's
seems like a non sequitur. It just seems weird. I don't know what the point is.
But not just it's a non sequitur, but also what it's just another claim that I don't see any reason to accept there. Let's see what else it says. Yeah,
I lost my page. Oh, there we go. Sorry, go ahead.
Dean said, wait, that's not the, where did it go? Islam is totalitarian. The desire to be a slave is strong. Absolutely.
And I'm confused by by and large. So it's like in some cases, it's genetically predisposition and you can do nothing about it. But in some cases, you lack that genetic, I don't understand, what's the view, right? If you're going to make the claim, what's the view? If you're going to raise that, look, it can be X and it can be Y, but by large and, by and large, it's going to be X. It seems weird to me because now you have this weird contradiction of if you're gonna say Y is some genetic cause or whatever you go, it just seems weird that you're well, there are the exceptions so that I don't paint myself in this weird category that I can't defend. It seems like you're painting the out there by going, look, I'm not saying all the time, but you don't realize making that move seems to just directly put you in the category of a proposition and the conjunction of its negation, i.e. just some contradiction, right? It just seems really weird to say that.
I love how they title this Zahabi shuts down homosexuality. The only thing he's shutting down is his own credibility.
Yeah, it's weird to say that these antecedent factors somehow get in the way of your volition to choose, right? All
right, let's see what else it says.
And I'm teaching you to be heterosexual. You know why? So you can do the greatest thing a human being can do in this dunya, is raise a family. Now you tell me what's the
what's the
human
what
being can do in this dunya? It's favor. I think I can do, and I'm teaching you to be heterosexual. You know why? So you can do the greatest thing.
Why do we invoke normative language so much? The greatest, right? Like this is the whole fucking problem. The whole problem. Is it Fearless? I don't want to say your name wrong, but um, because I totally thought that name was different when I saw it. But um, the whole problem, at least the problem I have that I've identified, and you could say it's a moot point.
It's
Other
a good
people could
point.
say,
Yeah.
look, I don't really care about the point. The point that I want to go look. You're ascribing a value. It could be the case that you have what somebody categorically should do, which is to not be gay or something, right? I'm giving you like without just coming at you with like a pitchfork, right? I'm just asking where, how do you actually adjudicate or constitute the value? You keep using like descriptive things like, you know, a man can like have sex with a woman and they can have a child, and then we can describe like we have these descriptive set of things that somehow constitute a normative evaluation. However, once you go into like explaining, you beg the question by invoking like terms like greatest, because greatest to you is going to just beg the question because greatest will entail, right? No homosexual relations, right? Not being transgender, right? Things like that. So when you say greatest, it just begs the question because greatest is only great in virtue of the value you've already assumed in the premises. I don't really care about hearing the claim again about what you think is greatest. I care about like actually substantiating the fucking claim of how you get to the normative value. If you just want to say, look, if you want to be the best Muslim, then you should do this, that's fine. You have a hypothetical imperative and like anybody can do that, right? But just to tell like that illuminates nothing for anybody, because I would expect you to go, look, this is against my religion and therefore I think it's wrong. But why is it actually fucking wrong, right? Don't just invoke normative language in your arguments.
A human being can do in this dunya is raise a family. Now you tell me what's the greater good? Being in a relationship with somebody of the same sex, or being in a relationship with the opposite sex and we can create a family. Nothing is more important to me than my family. Not my sexual.
Yeah, that's mind dependent. You should like really look at the distinction between, you know, your attitudes and tethered desires over like what we ought to do absent those reasons.
My personal sexual life. My family is number one on every scope except my religion. There's my religion, then there's my family. Everything else takes place number three. Now, when you're propagating a homosexual culture, you're teaching your children to be gay. You're saying, look,
What?
you, the individual, is more important than the collective. Okay, that's you.
What? Okay, so one, why would it matter? What look like so the fact that you juxtapose you thinking you're more important than the collective as opposed to your claim that the collective is more important than the individual, right? Like that's just epistemically on a par, it seems. I don't know how you actually tell me which one is the right one just in virtue of you having the that desire over my desire.
But also, why would educating about the LGBTQ community somehow, like, how insecure are they in their own orientation? Do they think just being taught that there are people that are different will lead them to those behaviors? That's why I said what I said earlier. Like, it doesn't surprise me when these people that are so adamant against homosexuality are caught engaging in it in secret, because this is the problem. They hate themselves most often than not. And like
I'm gonna, by the way,
Chris,
change the title of this video to Axioms on Trial Shuts Down Fear as it's a hobby on homosexuality and
Chris
LGBT.
writes, a same-sex couple can have a family and raise a family. Has he been living under a rock? Yes, he has.
All right. Let's go ahead.
It's your way of life. I tell my sons, don't argue with them. That's their way of life. That's fine. Our way of life is us, the collective, is more important than the individual. If you want to jump ship, you think you're more important than the collective, jump ship. But you're going to miss out on the greatest human experience that in this dunya you can have is a loving family. There's nobody that ever raised a successful, loving family that said, you know what, I would trade this loving family for this thing in the dunya or this.
You
No,
just
there's no human being who ever had a successful, loving family. He sidestepped all the pitfalls, all the dangers that can hurt a family. I don't know if you guys noticed, but everything in Islam that's haram is harmful to a family. Everything
pause.
that is halal helps the family grow. I don't know if you guys noticed.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't get
Your
to the tab.
your garbage religion hurts families, hurts individuals, not just individuals. Your religion hurts the collective. Your religion is to blame for an incredible amount of human suffering. You're too the problem is that you're too brainwashed and too fucking stupid to recognize that. There are many gay families that are more loving than your family will ever be, that you will ever be. That's the reality. And you are detached from that reality because this is what religion does to people. And this is why when theists whine at us, oh, why do you care? Why do you speak out if you don't believe? This is why, because people like him who think there's some authority on what makes a loving family. You're not an authority on anything.
Yeah, I wanted to give a big fuck you for thinking, that like the fact that you think the happiness constituted by you having a child is somehow superior to that than the happiness of two gay people, or even the happiness of a trans person, um, like being comfortable and identifying the way that they identify, and to think that your ascribed value is more meaningful just merely by the fact that you hold it and that a group of other delusional people also hold the same value. It's fucking weak. It's childish, right? It's just not even on it's not even on the level of providing like any attestation. Like the whole time this guy hasn't given a fucking argument. This guy's just rambled at
Yeah,
the
he's
mouth
just
and foamed
stating
at the
what he
mouth about
believes.
his values, and we get that. Like I can read the Quran and see how much of a big, giant piece of shit the book is to know that your values align with that. Like that's not like that's trivial,
Yeah.
right? Give the fucking argument.
But in the Quran, everything that is forbidden harms the family. How many millions of no, how many billions of children have been saved from fetal alcohol syndrome? You know that
Oh,
women they drink alcohol when they're pregnant, and oftentimes it's
Wait,
unknowingly. They're pregnant first trimester.
hold on.
How helps the family? He
they're obsessed with
sidestepped all the
alcohol.
pitfalls, all the dangers that can hurt a family. I don't know if you guys noticed, but everything in Islam that's haram is harmful to a family. And everything that is halal helps the family grow. I don't know if you guys noticed, but in the Quran, everything that is forbidden harms the family. How many millions of no, how many billions of children have been saved from fetal alcohol syndrome?
Yeah, there's like an actual um way to like detect look, there's a response, like an actual response to from the consumption of alcohol while pregnant to give off um this kind of overlapping way that even though a lot of our desires from really anybody you ask are not going to be conducive with the other person. The reason why we have a lot of these overlap, and you would disagree, you mean you would take it from more from a realist standpoint, but having the overlapping desires, or to not have uh, these issues with pregnancy because because you drank while pregnant, um, is just not even anywhere close to anything like of what you're saying is harmful to a family or haram in virtue of saying like someone being gay. Like there's just nothing even close to that.
And this is coming from somebody who doesn't drink. Like I drank one time by accident. It doesn't. There's no reason to say that. Yeah, a pregnant woman obviously shouldn't drink. Does that mean that Islam is right in rejecting alcohol altogether in every context? Because you can point to this one thing where it can be bad. Like the lack of critical thinking by people like this is just staggering.
You know that women they drink alcohol when they're pregnant, and oftentimes it's unknowingly. They're pregnant, first trimester, they're drinking alcohol, and are you guys aware of fetal alcohol syndrome?
Mhm.
How many? You know that when they do studies on fetal alcohol syndrome, they exclude Muslim countries. Muslim countries have no fetal alcohol syndrome. There are no children
So what?
in Islam in the Muslim
It's just a false statement. Like to say that there's not one
But
single case is just like the most hyperbolic piece of
but
shit I've ever heard in my
but even
life.
so, like, who
False.
cares? It doesn't mean that your religion is true just because uh, people avoid alcohol altogether, and it doesn't follow that people should avoid alcohol altogether uh, just because of this one thing. Like, all you have to do is make sure that the people are more aware of their situation, whether or not they're pregnant, before they drink. Like, who cares? This is whatever.
Yeah,
Keep playing.
it's it's extremely weird inference rule.
countries that are harmed by alcohol. Yet in the West, in other cultures, it's a major problem. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. How many billions of people did the Quran save from fetal alcohol syndrome? Everything that is haram in the Quran is bad for the family. Now, I tell my children, the family is first and then it's the individual. This is our way of life. This is what I'm teaching you. And I tell them that this is going to bring you to a higher level of happiness and a closer relationship with understanding your God. Then, if you
Is it haram to eat while someone's talking?
put yourself first and the family second, then if you do that, in my opinion, you're going to build your own personal health
Because we have a saying for that in non-religion. It's just called being rude.
in this life and in the next. A person who's in out for himself, it won't be long, but we figure out that person is a selfish member of this group, and he puts his interest before the collective.
Yeah, like this guy eating before the collective.
And we're going to push him out of the collective slowly, and it's going to be a type of difficult experience because every human being has a deep desire for belonging to a group. You know, Adam alayhi salam was in the Garden of Eden, yet he felt lonely. He felt a weakness. He needed
And you know this? Oh, because I read it in a book says a thing. That's how I know it.
companionship. We are all built to connect with one another. So the ultimate connection is the human family. So I asked my sons, where would you be if I was gay? You wouldn't exist, right? Checkmate, I tell them. So
What a fucking idiot. Checkmate, I tell them. That's just what a moron. And by the way, I feel like he's boring them too.
Wait, what?
Mm.
That's like one of those
Checkmate.
it's like one of those atheist like meme, like checkmate atheist. Like it's like I thought for a second I was like, he's gotta be that's like a Poe type of thing to say. If I was gay, you wouldn't exist. Therefore, it's wrong. Yeah. It just begs the question on that, like, if somebody cares about having a kid, or maybe that kid's just like, look, I hate being your son. Like, you don't
Yeah,
let me do
right.
anything fun. Wish I was never born. I don't know. I have no idea. It just seems weird that he speaks for him all the time. You're not. And by the way, this is also the guy that told his son that we're not gay. So like, it's not like this kid has a choice in anything that his father's telling him. Like he didn't have a choice to like listen to the conversation. He was like, you're just gonna agree with what I say, and then he says it. Like that's just like seems like the parenting of fear is here for Ross or whatever. All right, I don't know how much more. Well, we're at the end. I was like, I don't know how much more I can handle with this fucking guy, but
the favor I did for you,
oh, you're so oh man, yeah, your favor you did. Yeah, you didn't like what I don't get I don't get it. Like
One
because
second.
I had sex with somebody and had you. Like I did you this favor. Don't be gay. Like what?
troubles I had raising a family, the sacrifices I made for this family to be successful, I expect you to pass it on and do the same. And you're going to get an intrinsic reward for it. You're going to have a successful family, inshallah. And if your peers want to be gay, that's their culture, their business, their religion, their philosophies.
Yep, and it's better than yours if I can steal normative language.
And there's more women for us. If they're gay, there's more women for us. Don't argue with them. Don't fight with them. Don't. That's their prerogative.
So you spend 8 minutes talking about how bad this is without even providing an actual substantive argument, just to end it with like,
Yeah, because women are gonna
more pussy
be
for us,
interested.
bro. Like
Yeah.
that's the way you end it, right? Because it seems like you really like you started tracking. You didn't know like, oh, I didn't really say anything this whole time. It's like, how can I get like, you know, this one-dimensional male audience on my side? Oh, I don't know. I'll invoke like, well, I get pussy, bro. Like, what a fucking riveting argument that is. You really convinced me that homosexuality is wrong.
What I love is just knowing that these guys are, they must be so upset that the world they want is crumbling around them, and they want being able to hold down to it. Like they must, it must bother them so much on a core level.
I was gonna say I'll let the video finish, and I'll say it.
But that's it. That's how I see it. That's how I tackle the issue.
Oh, it's over. Okay.
Well, I guess he shut down homosexuality.
Yeah. Well. So to recap, from my perspective, in terms of the thing I cared about, in this, like, you know, I heard like someone said it in the comments. You can't really like. There's no arguing with these types of people, right? And some, like, I understand, like some people, they're just not. It's not going to work. But if I want to go into this as charitably as possible, I'm going to go, look, the claim that you're saying is one of value, and you're saying like, you know, that we ought to ascribe to this value. And so just the simple question is like how you actually constitute that. And I waited for the argument. All I heard was descriptions of like, you know, like you can have sex and then a child when we can, you know, have these descriptive states of affairs, but nothing that's like constitutes some goal that I should be in line with, or worse, that I shouldn't take the antithetical view, right? None of that was given me. I felt compelled by nothing that was said. I didn't even think there was even an argument in there. Anyone that would have been convinced by that would have already had all the source material in their head available to them. They just needed to hear it again, right? So, yeah. So to sum up, Fearless or the Three Muslims, just give me a syllogism, right? And then conclude with some categorical normative value that I ought to be in accord with always, right? That I don't have a choice. Give me that argument.
And I need less than that. I don't even need a syllogism. Provide me the evidence that homosexuality leads to the society being hurt.
Well, that's stage. That would be stage 2. Yeah.
Like
I just want them to at least get the value, right? I just want them to at least go, hey, here's like how I can adjudicate that my value is objective. And then like from there, it's like, or yeah, like you said, just show me the harm. Like, cause I think you're probably right in that I'll never get that, you know, that syllogism, even if I begged for it. So yeah, I mean, if you guys do a response video, at least like give an argument, provides fucking something. Like all I heard was like, I accept this thing in a book. It was precisely what I was going to say. A book says a thing and therefore homosexuality. Like that's the only thing that I've heard from Muslims. A book says a thing and therefore you should not be gay.
It's funny. It's ironic that someone like him says Islam is the best thing for families. Meanwhile, Islam is one of the worst religion for interpersonal relationships, the well-being of the people involved in those relationships. He just has defined best thing for a family submission to these ideas, when in reality you're just causing people suffering or causing people to have to I don't know. This is why it's because of people like him and his kind of rhetoric that I don't feel bad um, attacking religion the way that we do.
Um, yeah, I mean, look, I made more personal attacks on there, and that's deliberate. Like I just um once you embody, like, it's one thing if I want to have a discussion with a Muslim or Christian, but once they're like expressing these views to me, and it's not just like, hey, I kind of know that's nested in your beliefs, but like you're actually gonna start expressing them out loud, and that you hold to those and stuff. Then I don't have a problem like returning the ammo, because like you're dishing out personal attacks. And so I don't have an issue kind of showing you why I think you're a fucking idiot. But that's why I like it for any of my Christian friends, like Eddie um, or even some of my Muslim friends. The reason why I don't call you an idiot or think you're an idiot in that regard is because you haven't like been explicit to say really fucking dumb things that just make you a bigot from my view. So there's just because you follow some religion, I'm gonna hold off and assuming that you ascribe to every value. But once you express it to me, it's kind of over. I kind of don't really look at you the same way. It's like, it's like telling me you steal from your mom's purse or something. Like I'm just never gonna look at you the same again. I just look at you as a piece of shit at that point. But for a lot of the people that I talk to, they don't feel the need to say that, or they disagree with those values. And I wish that, even though I think they're somewhat contradicting their beliefs or what their doctrine says, I think that's much better than being a hateful piece of shit. So shout out to all the good Christians and Muslims that at least condemn this type of behavior.
Brownlee writes, Islam is the best thing.
Actually, I don't think there are many Muslims that do that, but I know one. So
from the point of view of the person, the family, with all the power and control, Islam is the best thing for society from the point of view of the religious leaders with the power and control. I think that's a good point. Yeah, so I think there's some other clips that we'll get to at some point.
You want to try to do that one next time? That one's a little longer. It's like 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, I think next time let's do the Habermas resurrection stuff.
We'll have to do a whole fucking series on Habermas.
Yeah, we will. But
I'm at the. Well, you know what? Guys, this might be the last time you hear me drop the F-bombs on the show.
I doubt it.
I'm gonna try. We don't know why, but we're getting like demonetized on some stuff. And let me put it this way: Cecil will be the first person to agree with me. If we were demonetized entirely, we would still do this. It's not an issue. We'll do this always. We'll pay out of pocket to do it if we have to. But the issue might be me saying stuff at the beginning in the first, I think, 10 minutes or something. Someone told me you gotta be careful in the first certain amount of minutes. If this episode gets flagged, then I'm gonna go right to that. And if that's the case, then sorry. Well, sorry everybody. I'm gonna try to tone it down and be.
There are videos where we don't curse at all, and what we're talking about isn't even controversial.
Mm-hmm.
And it immediately all our videos get flagged from the get-go, and I have to request a review every time. And usually when we do request a review, then it gets reinstated. But it's almost like it automatically goes to getting flagged.
Sure. So there's certain groups, and I think this is the case with really any group of people, but so I'm not trying to single out like just certain Muslim groups that do this. But there's some that like seemingly don't. They specifically, I'll use a friend of mine's wording, and this isn't meant to be mean to the victim in this case, but some of them seem to go after wounded cattle, or I'm sorry, like a wounded calf, I think was the term, as opposed to something their own size or somebody that might actually have some something substantive to say to like these arguments. And so you're going to get a divide between two groups, three. One that doesn't want to engage with anybody at all, and they just want to be in the echo chamber. The other, which is they're only going to invite people that they know they can exploit because they know that they're ignorant on these topics. And then the ones that actually are genuine and do care. And those groups make themselves known because you can just watch their content and they don't have an issue talking to people higher than themselves, even if me and Cease disagree. But there are certain groups out there that that don't want to actually engage with people that go through these types of topics, or when they do, they're definitely have a much different attitude than when they did
In fact, let me just address
prior.
this.
So,
Let me just address this, because I've talked about this briefly before, but
I'm not, and I'm not specifically calling anyone. I'm just saying
I will,
I've
because I don't
known
give
it from groups that I've seen, and then some groups are better than others. But yeah, I'm just saying that, and I think
So
they would even agree. But
I am going to address this, and this is me. This is coming from me, not you.
I don't know what you're gonna. Oh, you're pulling that up. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, so you're gonna go straight.
Yeah, so
to
I'll
that.
address all three of them. Jake went on after we had a discussion with them on their show where they, talked over us every 2 seconds, ignored everything that my brother was saying about science to support conclusions that don't follow.
Well, can I ask you a quick question? Because just real fast, my interactions with Abdul, especially of late, have been really positive. So
Mine are
but
not.
oh, okay. So I
And
might,
my
yeah.
only interactions with him have been shortly after the discussion online, and because it really
Me,
bothered
Khalil,
me.
and Abdullah have had, or I'm sorry, Abdul have had pretty decent conversations lately, but Jake never so much. He just seems always kind of like douchey to me, but but maybe that's just how he is. I don't know.
So the reason why, again, one thing I'm noticing, and I do think I need to work on this, but it is still a reality, is that the older I get, the more impatient I feel with what I think is intellectual dishonesty. I don't react well to that kind of thing. So the fact that after that conversation that we had, they went on social media claiming victory over a physicist when they go completely embarrassed, they just weren't even aware of it.
Yeah, because they thought that cause and explanation were the same when there's like very distinct.
Yeah, I left some pretty
literature
combative comments on their videos saying like you're just basically, completely detached from reality of
Well,
what happened.
let me ask you: was that the only time or conversation? Because when I speak of that when especially I've talked to Abdul privately, and I can't say I have any issues. But if you're talking from then, like I agree with your frustration because I had the same frustration. Mine is more post all that and having interactions with them. So I don't have.
Well,
Like, I
my
guess
interactions with them
you
have
haven't had
been
interactions since then. I get it. Like I just come from a
not
different
in
standpoint.
private, but I've had interactions with them in the comment sections of some of their videos. One of them being the
Sure.
one we were a part of, and also other ones. And there was this, like, I'm willing to go on any show, right? Obviously I also want to make content and people come on my show. What bothers me is that people like them don't go on other people's shows ever. They always have the little echo chamber. It's usually like 4 or 5 of them against one person, and then their audience feeds their egos, and that's what it is. So for me, it's like I don't mind going on a show, but show that you're not a coward. You know, step out of your comfort zone and show your audience that you're not a coward, and they never do that. Now,
I think Abdul would talk. Come on, I mean,
I've
but
asked
maybe.
him.
Oh
No,
yeah, well, so
no,
maybe
I've
not. I
asked
don't
him.
know.
He said,
I won't stick up for them anymore. Then, if
yeah,
that's
just
the case, I mean, not
yeah,
like
just
look.
listen.
I'm just saying because I'm trying to be as charitable as possible so that they, we can have a conversation.
I've asked, and they refused because they. I mean, he actually said at one point like it's a waste of time because of some of the views that we've expressed. Drake, very creepily, found me on a stream when I was on a different channel, I think it was the Prometheus or Promethean
That's what you said.
experience, when I was talking about the dangers of Islam. Um, he randomly showed up after we had a conversation talking about how I'm an Islamophobe in the comment section. And Khalil, has said, like, yeah, I want to have a discussion with you. And then every time I try to set it up, he's nowhere to be found. Or like I had an email exchange with him and said, well, I can't do it this week, but next week is fine. Then I was like, okay, well, what day is next week? Never heard back.
Sure.
I asked him on social media. He said, well, I don't schedule this kind of stuff on social media. It's like,
Well, let me be
you,
the mediator. And we can play the sides all good. We can have the conversation here
yeah.
on Axioms. And I know you're willing to do that.
And we don't
But
record to show. We don't over talk people. Like, we give them the time to express their views. Like, we don't. We try to be fair on the show.
yeah, I agree.
We don't try to gang up on people. So why is it that now none of these guys want to engage? And like I said, I'm willing to go on their show, but I want them to come to ours, because I've shown, like, we were the ones that went on Khalil's show when he had already converted, was a Muslim, and we discussed in for lack
Yeah,
of a
I
better
did it
term.
after a 3-hour debate I
Yeah.
came on.
So
Directly after. So it's
for
like,
lack of a better term, we went onto enemy territory and had a conversation. Why can't they do the same? I
sure.
told them, like, I will go on your show. I'll go by myself against 5 of you. Okay, but just go on our show first. Show that you're willing to give the same thing back.
Well, technically it would be second. Because the first time we already went on their show.
Yeah. So right, exactly.
But
So,
I mean, look, I'm not trying to white knight nobody or anything. All I'm trying to say is my interactions have been way more positive and have been good, especially with Abdul. And so I'd be taken back if they didn't actually want to have a conversation. And then in that case, it would be something personal with you. And I mean, I have no problem admitting it. Just seems like they would be scared at that point. I don't know why.
well, it is.
They
I think
wouldn't
it
want to
is.
have a conversation. Well, I don't know why someone would want to have a conversation with you, but want to have a conversation with me, and I drop F-bombs, and I'm, like, I don't, like, it seems like that would be the criticism on me,
it
not
became
you.
personal. I think one of the
But
reasons he gave was some of your responses to the kalam. They said that you just didn't know what you were talking about. But I think so. I think there's some kind of two-faced behavior going on there, because they seem to, like, be nice to you, but then talk behind your back.
Sure.
But I do think most of it is personal with me, because we had quite a fiery exchange on social media, because I didn't take well to them lying to their audience about what was actually said in the conversation with my brother. So yeah, it is personal because of that, and it's mostly an issue between me and them.
That's fine. I mean, look, like, if that's the case, that's fine. I take no harm in someone saying that you don't understand the kalam when the very thing that you have to prop up in order to substantiate the first premise is a theological shot in the foot. And I've expressed that to them multiple times, and they don't ever give a response to that. Even cited the Malpass's paper so that so they can actually look at, something in the literature. But yeah, I don't, for whatever reason, it's always, what about the composition fallacy? I'm like, look, I'm not even, I've brought that up like one time with you guys in a private chat, and I have way more criticisms than any part to whole argument. I mean, I'm a mereological nihilist, so I have way more issues with the first premise than that. But anyway, so that would be good to have them on, because if that's the case, then I would only want to talk the kalam with them.
I'm telling you now, like yeah, I would love for that to take place. I'm not holding my breath. I don't think they'll ever take that step.
Sure.
And that's the case for
kalam is a garbage argument.
And by the way, I deal with this all the time. People, because I have a TikTok account, cease to know on TikTok, and you won't believe how many times. Well, actually, you probably do believe it, because I'm sure you experience the same thing. How many times I'll have a theist come on my page, talk so much garbage, like just so arrogantly and confidently about all kinds of things, making all kinds of claims, and then when I say, okay, like, you're definitely confident that you have the right understanding of these topics. Come on and defend your views, whether it's about philosophy with me or about science with you or my brother. Like,
Hmm.
come on and let's see. Literally, like 99% of the time, they back out, because I think deep down they know they don't have the capacity and the tools to really engage in those conversations outside of a 40 character comment behind a screen. These people are ultimately scared to really have their ideas challenged and to engage in a live debate, because they can't actually do it. So
Yeah. I mean, I'll leave it as an invitation, but
yeah,
any topic, preferably the Kalam, um, because if
yeah,
I'm
I'll be
so if I'm
civil,
if I'm so bad at it, right, then we should be able to have the conversation. But
and I'll remain civil. Like, I'm not gonna insult them to come on. Like, uh, it'll be fine.
no,
Just
I know, I know that would be. I think it would be fair. But yeah, no, I don't. To move on and give people. First off, when you walked away, I gave people kind of the what was our second date? Because we had planned the second date that we're gonna do, but I forgot if it was a Wednesday
I think
or
it
if it
was a
was.
Wednesday, and I think we said we do Mondays in the morning and the Wednesdays in the evening, and then if we can get other shows in throughout the week, we will. But those are the 2 days we
Yeah,
decided on.
that's basically what I mentioned. I said it's gonna be Monday at 2. I guess looking like Wednesday at night. Um, and
Around
then
7, right?
yeah, around 7 or 8 normal time, 7 or 8, depending on um whether we're ahead. So sometimes we might need some extra time. That'll be the 8 o'clock. If we don't, we're all good to go, and I'll set up 7 o'clock. So I would expect it those times. But yeah, and then any day that we do it could be another do it. It could be Tuesday or a Friday or a Sunday. So those would be like the random days potentially. But yeah, so just take a note in your schedule or your calendar or whatever, and put Mondays at 2 for sure, and you won't miss an episode. Or just hit the bell and things like that, and you'll get notified.
And
The
as
bell never
always,
works for me when I
it,
subscribe to
it
things.
works for me.
Oh, okay, so
And as always, patreon.com/axioms on trial. Email us. I'm on TikTok as cease to know. And one thing before we close up, just because of current events, my support and thoughts go to Ukraine and the people of Ukraine, and honestly, the Russian people that are protesting this war that they don't want, that are being thrown in jail by Putin and his lot. Um, it's so disturbing to me that these psychopaths get into power and can just play with people's lives. Like the soldiers, even the soldiers don't want to go and often kill anybody, and I don't know. These are scary times that we're living in. And so my thoughts go out to the people that are suffering these atrocities currently. Uh, I just wanted to
yeah,
say that.
we'll just go ahead and someone had mentioned it in some meme, but it was like, go ahead and speed up to the part without any casualties, where it just ends with Putin in a bunker killing himself and making the world a better place. But with that said, we are done for the evening, and we urge you to subscribe, comment, or join the Patreon, like C said, at patreon.com/axioms on trial. We appreciate it. We love y'all. We will see you on Wednesday.